Hello and welcome to the Half Assed Homestead. My name is Angie.
Are you recording?
Hi everybody and welcome back to the Half Assed Homestead. My name is Angie.
And I'm Andy.
And this video is 2 years in the making. We started the YouTube channel back in January of 2023 and we finally have enough footage to give you guys a look back and a 2-year time lapse. I hope you guys enjoy. Let's take it back, way back, to the beginning. The YouTube channel for the homestead started back in January of 2023. I had been uploading videos on Facebook for friends, family, and ourselves as kind of a lookbook for just us, and Andy talked me into putting it on YouTube. When I decided to put it on YouTube, I decided I was going to put a little bit more effort into these videos than what we had been. And here we are. 2 years later, I finally get to film the lookbook that I have been chomping at the bit to make for the last 6 months. Our first project was to cut down some pine trees to put in our upper orchard. We also did a little bit of logging on the hillside overlooking our lower orchard to allow a little bit more light, and we took down a bunch of oak trees as this is a very predominant area for oak wilt, and we are losing a lot of oaks right now. Every week we film footage and we trim out so much stuff down to a 6 or 8 minute video, and that's what we put out for you guys. I'm hoping to convey how much actually got done in 2 years. Though it's a lot, I don't think as much as you possibly think. As soon as March rolled around, I made sure we got out, got our fruit trees and our grapes all ready for the orchard. We definitely wanted this to happen. And even though we logged all winter, we still had so much cleanup to do. Because our driveway was glare ice, we were unable to get all of these logs up the driveway where they belong. And we also weren't able to pull out all of these stumps until the frost came out. Once the frost came up, we started throwing down on the work and spent as much time on our weekends getting as much done as humanly possible. We removed all of the stumps and continued to abuse our plow truck by stripping the top layer of soil from the ground. I know that seems bad, but we have Japanese barberry and we are trying to prevent that from growing back. We followed that up with the plow and got all of the root systems nice and busted up before we brought the four-wheeler with the chain link grader through and got everything nice, graded, and pretty. We also went around the property grabbing up all of the T-posts that we could find from old fencing from previous ownership to reuse that. Since we don't have a lot of money, we don't have much other choice than to be resourceful and use the things that we already have laying around. By my count, I believe we cut down 8 pine trees and planted 21 fruit trees. So we added more trees and created a little bit more biodiversity. There's also space for 3 more trees, which I hope to add an apricot. At this point, we did not have the pluot and the Granny Smith apple, or the 2 pawpaws that I decided to cram in the back of the orchard last year. Something else I also really want is a vineyard. I do have a good taste for wine. I very much enjoy it, and that's something I would like to do in my slower, more simple times here on the homestead. So I'm just trying to prepare for that now. I did plant some grapes. I did plant more table grapes on the fence since I do also love to eat them. I planted some green grapes, some catawba and concord for winemaking. There is a plan for a little vineyard up by our rock retaining wall in the future, but that is a ways off yet. This spring brought so many more chores. Our asparagus bed needed a little bit of attention, so while everything was still pre-growth, we decided to add a nice thick layer of mulch to our asparagus bed and maybe wreck a tree in the process. I also started with the log bed. I don't believe we filmed here on YouTube. I believe this happened prior to. However, we have the log bed and I am planting that full of asparagus. We got our first shipment of meat birds. We had ordered 25 Cornish cross and unfortunately we had a few casualties during shipping, which is kind of to be expected, but still a bummer nonetheless. Because of all the logging that took place over the course of the winter, we had a ton of pine logs to mill through. And we use as much of the log as humanly possible. So what we do is we take a little bit off the outside and we turn over to making siding. We make a lot of siding out of the scrap wood of the pine. And then we make our 2x4s or 1x whatever we need. We make it happen. The first thing we built this year was a brooder for the chicks because we needed a slightly bigger one than we had needed in the past. One of the unfortunate things about our mill is that the boards don't always come out exactly square and a lot of them have to be passed through the table saw to make them build worthy. It is an extra step, but we are saving a good chunk of change. Once we were done with that brooder, we started working on our chicken coop, and this was a forever long project. I remember it being so hot. It was brutally dry year, 2023. It was great for like the peppers and everything. Another thing we also built was our hoop house chicken coop. So basically it is just some cattle panels and a little door made up with some cinder blocks around it. Worked great for our Cornish. Andy put backer board down on the chicken coop floor so it doesn't rot out. I thought that was an absolutely brilliant idea. Better than the idea of building the chicken coop by the garage and having to move it in place. It wasn't bad moving it on the sled, but once we got to the pad where the chicken coop sits, because this is all fresh, loose dirt, it got a little hairy. We got the tractor out, we leveraged our mechanical capabilities, and we got it done. It was not ideal, but we did it. We also used some spare glass leftover to make some windows for the chicken coop so they get a little bit more light and we get a few more eggs. Through the entire time that we were dealing with this chicken coop, I was still tending the garden. Andy helped too. But 2023 was something like I have never seen before. We harvested enough beans and jalapenos to last 2 years. On the jalapenos, maybe even about 3. It was dry. It was premium conditions for peppers. Banging crop. And we preserved so much food. I also spent a lot of time on this pepper clip. I am including it in this video because it is a year and a half later and I am still proud of this. I love it. I remember spending days in the kitchen and into the night. I would be so exhausted by the time I would go to bed preparing. But you know what? The food that we're eating is super high quality and absolutely delicious. So, and especially with the food costs these days, you know what? Totally worth it. When the weather started cooling down, I decided it was time to get together everything that we needed for garlic, and that included building the raised bed. The year prior, we did try to grow garlic down by the lower orchard, and honestly, it didn't do very well because it didn't get the attention that it needed. It didn't get the nutrients and the food like everything else did. So we decided to move it a lot closer to the house, right off the garden actually. Growing garlic has been like one of my bucket list things to grow. It takes up space, it takes a long time, but it's something that was super important to me. It is actually like a huge cost savings. So in the end, it actually all maths out and we're great. This is where the homestead picked up the nickname, the Chicken Ranch. Our birds were finally ready to process. We had made it through, I believe, 9 to 10 weeks of raising these birds to completion, and we got to process our first homegrown meat from the homestead. And oh my God, what a rush that was. This is not my first time raising chickens, but when you're doing it yourself as an adult, it is a completely different feeling. The season started off absolutely terrible. We got a gas leak on the wood chipper, got that all fixed up, ready to go, and that's when Andy burnt his hand, which made for a relatively awful Christmas, because if I'm not mistaken, that was Christmas Eve, a trip to the ER. We did end up getting a bunch of bee boxes, and we spent a good amount of time through the winter getting those ready. It took up a little bit of time, and we were then ready for spring, which was super fancy because we're never ready. In the spring, we started building a new chicken run, and that has been an ongoing project. Andy wanted something a little bit better. I wanted something a little bit bigger for our girls. And I'm going to be honest, it's still not done, and that's why you've never seen any of this footage. So surprise. Since we were increasing the coop size and the run size, I decided to fill up an incubator and hatch some of our very own chicks. We also bought a couple because I have a problem. I love chickens. Chicken math. Whilst raising these chicks, we finally got our honeybees. We purchased 2 nucleuses first thing in the spring and started our honeybee keeping experience. We had, from the 2023 winter season, mulled over cutting down a few more trees between the orchard and the sawmill, and we finally pulled the trigger on that, thinking that was probably the best idea and have the best interest for our orchard and honeybees in mind. However, we ended up wrecking a squirrel's home, and we wound up with an orphaned squirrel, which I went out, bought some puppy formula, and fed this little bugger for several days until I could get her to the wildlife sanctuary during the week when they were open. And what a treat that was. She's pretty cute, not gonna lie. We made our first honey harvest, which was super exciting. You don't always get a harvest on your first year. However, we provided additional wax, so our bees had a little bit of a head start. They had so much of a head start, they actually swarmed, so we wound up with an additional hive. And we wound up with many additional hives after that. But to catch this on camera was super freaking awesome, and this was a heck of an experience that I wouldn't trade for anything. Among the various projects that we worked on throughout the summer season, we decided this was a good time to try giving the lower food plot a facelift. It never really took off, so we decided to give it another go, and a better go, by using a cultipacker and hopefully getting a little bit more clover to grow. And we also decided to throw down some chicory, because I know that's a weed and that can grow anywhere. And because around here we can never have our plates full enough, Andy brought home a GMC dump truck And naturally, because it's a standard, you got to teach a kid how to drive it too. We also had a substantial harvest, though not quite as good as the year prior. And I finally got to harvest that garlic that I have wanted to harvest for years. And the harvest was good, although I made some mistakes. And I know better, but I rinsed all the bulbs of garlic. You don't do that with onions. You don't do that with potatoes. I don't know why I thought it would be a good idea with garlic. And came the hottest day of the year. We decided to start putting the chicken run together. I don't know if the elevator goes all the way up to the top sometimes. But the chickens do enjoy having a nice roof over their heads. It only took us a couple days to get that far. But I'm sitting here in February of 2025 and we still don't have a ridge cap on top of that chicken run. We have had harvests from the lower orchard before. However, this is the first year we got to press cider. That was something on Andy's bucket list, was to start a tradition. And you can't start a tradition if you don't actually start it. So we heard enough of wanting to start it and finally did. We also got up an electric fence around our bee yard, and that is to protect from bears and skunks. Better late than never. We haven't had any issues yet, but better safe than sorry. Someone had given Andy some maple logs, and it turns out that they were heavily spalted. They had been laying around for about 2 years. He threatened to turn them into firewood, so I decided it is time to mill them and make something out of them. And we made some memories. We made a bunch of cutting boards. Isabel made one for her mom, and that was a good life lesson. And we also made a lot of Christmas gifts out of these boards. And if y'all missed it, I did shave my head. So that was also another amazing feat for the 2024 season. We had the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to purchase fully grown out meat birds for $1 a piece. There was a manufacturer who had some financial hardship, and they had to find 150,000 chickens homes. They were hemorrhaging money. They are very expensive to feed at this size. The processor wouldn't take them. And our second winter has been this weird hodgepodge of just about anything. Andy got a skid steer, had to rebuild the engine, but now we have a skid steer. And I had to bring my Jeep home, which is broke, and it's still broke, and it's going to remain broke. And then I started my bathroom remodel project at my house and found out I needed to rewire, and that kind of put a halt to the content and kind of changed the direction that we've been heading for the last several months. And all that being said, we also made a lot of firewood, lots and lots of firewood, and we burnt it too. So, I mean, at least we're staying relatively warm. So out of the projects that we've done in the last 2 years, what is the project you get the most enjoyment out of?
That's a tough one. I honestly don't know. Probably the orchard or the garden. I mean, the garden every year is fun to see it do things.
Yeah,
The new chicken coop is nice.
it is. It's super bougie compared to the old one.
They're all fun projects. It's just a matter of time and practicality. There's really not much of either.
No. But I think I get the most enjoyment out of the bees, but they are a huge source of frustration at the same time.
They're fun to watch. Like, you sit and kind of zone out and Watch them flying around, as dumb as that sounds. It's just, I don't know.
It's
something
fun.
Weird.
Watching them bring their little pollen bags in, or you see them out on the flowers, or, you know, I like seeing them around. They make me happy. What project are you the most proud of? Proud of, most excited to show people? Like, what is that one thing?
The one that isn't done yet. The dozer.
I thought you were going to say the chicken run. You said it wasn't done yet.
Chicken run's still not done yet.
The chicken run's still not done yet. Sadly, I think it's the orchard, and I think it's going to be the retaining wall that goes along with it when that finally gets done.
The other project that's still not done yet.
Mm-hmm. The other project that's still not done yet. But I am very excited to show off, like, the orchard and the bees.
People usually get pretty jazzed about that.
Yeah. So, the little things that keep you ticking.
Well, you know, like the little project, like the cider press or the evaporator, the chicken coop, like, I don't know. Not everybody sees it every day, and they're like, oh, it's neat.
Oh. Do you have any goals for this year?
Get the dozer running, clear some land, get ready to build a shop, or move. I don't know yet.
Homestead goals. I think my homestead goal is to not kill the bees this year. All of our bees died. So I haven't done a video on it because bees aren't really a hot topic for videos. They're actually, they repel views. So those are just going to be little clips in the vlogs. But yes, all the bees died this year. Don't know what happened. We had a really strong hive. It must have been, I haven't really looked in it. I'm pretty sure it was probably a mite overload problem. It's best guess I have. So, yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say you killed them.
Well, they didn't survive, so there's that. Well, I'm sorry that the video wasn't, that this little conversation wasn't any peppier. It's been a long day. Andy spent the day tearing apart the washing machine to find out that it was too expensive to fix, and like parts really wasn't worth it. And I did full day. We collected some sap. It's getting toward bedtime, so I'm starting to wind down a little bit. But I would like to thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed our 2-year time lapse. And we will see you guys in the next video.